I mean, if someone was out there and like, man, I really want to start a call center, like because in the industry, it's viewed as something that's really sexy, everybody wants to do, but it's also very difficult. What would you say to that person that's like, okay, I want to start something? Where should they start?
One of the biggest things I think that salespeople fail, and that's kind of like my goal, my mission, to really kind of just let people know, is that most salespeople never connect with the other person. They never connect with the other person. You were to look at what made me successful and what made me what I would call a Medicare rock star or sales rock star is the ability to connect with somebody else. And that's the key thing.
That's huge.
Once you connect with somebody, they'll buy whatever you're selling.
Yeah.
Because they trust you.
I think we should stop and make them put their credit card in to keep watching and listening to this free live sales training with you. I'm telling you, this dude is an absolute animal in the industry, doing a ton of business, very successful. Running a Medicare call center is about as hard as it gets in the industry. And you make it seem really easy. Now everybody's gonna be wanting to start.
Well, first of all, it's not easy, and you know that too.
Not.
So
it's very freaking hard.
Yeah,
I hear of Medicare call centers that fail daily.
And if you don't watch what you're doing, it can happen to anybody, you know.
Today I have special guest Greg Gurbikian with Healthcare Solutions Direct out of Tampa, Florida.
Correct.
Dude, you're a rock star.
Thank you.
And now, really personal branding, Medicare rock stars.
Correct.
Which is really, really cool, by the way. For those who don't know, Greg, very successful call center, 20 sales reps now, huge into Medicare. Medicare rock stars kind of gave it away. You've really built something special. You've pioneered, and obviously you've learned from some heavy hitters along the way, as we all should, right? What do you think you can attribute your specific call center success to? Because there's a lot of people watching that would love to be Greg Gurbikian today.
Yeah, so I think I would attribute that to having a good culture. That's number one, is having people that want to come in and work, and just kind of giving them a voice and allowing them to participate, in the process. So I think that's one of the key things. If you're trying to build a call center, you're trying to go down that road, is culture is so important. And that's the number one thing. I think I learned that early, trying to build a call center, is that the culture was not really the main focus. And ran into some problems, early on, and then really we started focusing actually on the culture and making sure at the end of the day that people felt like their voice was heard, they were understood. I think that's kind of what allowed us to to be successful.
Yes, so important.
Yeah,
I understand what you're talking about, where it was a struggle early on, because we didn't always have the culture we have today, right? We didn't have a team meeting back in the day.
No, you have a fantastic culture. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And it can always get better. But on that note, since you brought it up, what do you think about the meeting and being around the office and hanging out here for a couple
days? No, it was
days?
great. So I think that kind of goes back to what I was just talking about a second ago, is that we started, doing team meetings and doing Monday mornings and things like that, and then we got away from it.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden the culture kind of affected, because we were so worried about the numbers, get the numbers, get get on the phone, get going, and people felt like you were kind of micromanaging them, and it caused some issues. But then, since we've gotten back to that culture phase of, hey, there's a morning meeting.
Yes.
Let's talk about some wins that we've had. Some getting some of the agents involved as far as talking about what they've done that worked or didn't work. Yep. I think I heard just one recently where the manager was actually talking to the agent and asked him, like, hey, what, is it okay for me to tell this story? The agent said, okay. He said, hey, let me tell you about something that this agent did that didn't work, and what he's doing right now to fix that. And so it was kind of like a learning experience that was for the entire office, which was good.
So having everybody on the same page and really communicating and having some of those meetings and influencing and focusing on the culture has clearly helped. What would you, I mean, if someone was out there and like, man, I really want to start a call center, like because in the industry, it's viewed as something that's really sexy, everybody wants to do, but it's also very difficult. What would you say to that person that's like, okay, I want to start something? Where should they start?
So I think, the first thing that they need to do as far as starting is having a foundation in place, having a team in place. And I think, starting early on in our careers, we didn't have the correct team, I don't think, in place,
Yeah.
kind of hit the ground running and going, 500 miles an hour and didn't get the foundation correct. So, I mean, I think that's the number one thing that I would recommend anybody to do is make sure that you have a foundation in place. Make sure that you have, your sales manager in place. You're already thinking about, okay, once I hit this many people, I've got to get another sales manager, and you're already thinking about.
Is there a certain number of people, now that you say that they should think about, like in your office?
Correct.
So
Yep.
Let's walk through your organizational structure then. You have how many managers?
So right now we have one manager, and we're going to be bringing on another one here very, very shortly. So I think when you get to about 15 agents, I think that's the max load that one manager can actually kind of handle.
That's good.
So I mean, some organization will do 10 agents to a manager. I think if I were to say, I think the sweet spot is like 12 to 15. 12 to 15 agents. You got one manager. I think as you start growing and start building, I think once you start getting more than that, once you start hitting the 20 mark, you need to start really kind of start looking at a second manager involved. And that's kind of what we're doing right now as we're trying to grow. And then that's the thought process when you get to 40, then there, you start that's the scaling model that you have to have in mind. I think so many people just start thinking I've got to hire, and then they forget that once you bring the people on board, once you bring the agents on board, then at that point, how do you manage them?
Exactly. And you have 20 now?
Correct. Yep.
And you're wanting to get
21,
You want to get to 50?
So we want to get to 50. our current office right now holds 78. 78 agents. So that's the goal is to fill that office here. And then there's definitely room for us to grow as well. So
that's huge. 78.
78. Yeah.
When will it be full?
So we're hoping for by AEP.
Okay.
Or at least by the end of the year. So yeah, we're being very aggressive right now on our
yeah, we're recording this. What is it? June 15th, 2021. So wow, we got 6.5 months.
I think we've got another 14, 15 agents that are starting actually on Monday this next week.
Nice.
So that bring us close to that 35 range. And then start continually. That's another thing I would also say, and I was talking to Landon as well about this, the fact that when you have to constantly be hiring. You have to constantly be hiring, because at the end of the day, going forward, one of the things that I learned from another industry is that you always have to be looking for that next person.
That's right. How important has that been, by the way, too? Is like as we're both going to grab a little sip here. I've got a little cough going on today, so this is good. Thank you, Dylan. As we think through, like hiring, getting to 78 agents, really adding 13, 14, 15 at a time. What do you look for? Like, what are some of the questions? What are you looking for when you're really trying to find that next person?
So trying to find out what their past success has been, because your past success is a lot of times going to indicate what your future success is going to be. So
that's good, by the way. Okay, this is good. Actually, and how good is this dude, by the way, already? Greg is an absolute rock star when it comes to building out a call center and a team. We need to start like going and consulting call centers together. I think Greg and I would be a good combination.
Let's set it up. But for those that haven't had really any sales experience, I'll give you an example. Is that I had a girl that we had hired that really didn't have any sales experience. So in the interview process, when they're asking her questions, they found out that she really was into working out at the gym. And during the course of the conversation, she was talking about the fact that she would outlift her boyfriend. And her boyfriend was really into the gym, and so that was her big thing. Was her mindset was to outlift her boyfriend when they were squatting, things like that. Yep. And so we saw a drive in that person that necessarily didn't have the sales acumen, but they had that drive.
Well, competitive too.
Competitive. So I mean, I think that's one of the top things. We're talking about Medicare, a Medicare rock star is that a Medicare rock star is extremely competitive.
Yeah.
They're very competitive at what they do. So I think the competitive part is really what we're looking at. So obviously income that they've made prior to coming on board is obviously a really big key.
So what if they made like so in that example, like the chick that was working out, competitive, all that. What if she had only made $20,000 the year before? Would you outweigh that because maybe she hasn't had the right opportunity yet?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If she's had that competitive, competitive experience that, and so that's one of the key things we try to pull out is that competitive drive. Like, how competitive are you? And a lot of people will say, well, I'm very competitive. Well, what have you done that was competitive? What are your, what would you go back to that was extremely competitive for you?
Yes.
So I always tell people as well is that you always want to go back to that moment in time that you did something was absolutely impossible.
Yep.
And kind of grow from there. And it's just look for that. That's what you kind of try to draw out from somebody, and especially when you're having a rough time too. Go back to that point in time where you actually did something that was impossible. So I talk about I'll talk about this. One of the impossible moments that I go back to in my life was I was I think I was in 8th grade. I went to a boarding school. In 8th grade, they had a speech meet for the entire school. So the entire boarding school had from 1st grade to like senior level. So they had a speech meet where at the end of the day, every class would compete, and then person from the class would go, and then they'd have a final winner. Yeah. And so coming up to the practice day, I didn't even have a speech prepared. I didn't even have one. So I remember going in front of the class, and I was just going to wing it. Yep. And so I get up there, I was kind of a little class clown, and about a minute into my fake speech, the teacher pulls me out of the room. And she says, you haven't done anything. You haven't prepared at all. She goes, you know what, Greg, you're going to be a loser the rest of your life. She goes, you're never going to amount to anything. And if this is the way you're going to treat life, this is what's going to happen to you. And I looked at her in the face, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to win the entire speech meet. And she's like, that'd be kind of a cold day in hell if that happened. So I went back to my dorm that night, and literally I picked a speech, and all night, so I'm in 8th grade, I did not sleep a wink that night. I just literally found something that had different tonality in it, different characters in it, and I really played to those strengths. And I knew that at the end of the day, I had to be perfect. And so the next day went past my first class, and long story short, that teacher handed me the first place speech meet prize. But cool. It was that defining moment where I did something that was literally impossible. Yeah. So I actually, that trophy, I still have that trophy. It sits by my bed. And I always remind myself of that moment where I did something that was totally impossible. So I think every person, including yourself or anybody else, they've got to go back to that moment in time where they did something that was so impossible, because you're going to get in the rut of life. You're going to get into that time of your life where things are not kind of going right. Life's kind of just throwing you some curveballs. Yeah. And at that point, it's very easy to kind of get depressed, kind of say this isn't working, the leads aren't working. Yep. Killing your confidence. The confidence starts going down. So you got to go back to that moment in time where you did something that was so unbelievable. Yeah. And I think that's kind of going back to the hiring process thing, is try to find that person that go back to that moment in time where they did something that was so impossible. Yes. If we can't find that during the interview, then that's probably not the right fit.
That's good. And for those that, again, Greg Gurbikian, I'm going to spell his name so you guys can look him up. Kurbikian.
G-U-R.
G-U-R.
G-U-R, yep. G is
Gurbikian.
Gurbikian, yep.
See? That's why you do that.
Think Kardashian, Gurbikian.
Gurbikian.
Yeah, so
G-U-R-B-I-K-I-A-N.
Correct, bingo.
Okay, there you go. Now, a good thing we did that, because now you can look him up. Okay, Gurbikian, good. Okay, why Medicare rock stars? Where does that come from? Because that's really cool, by the way. Yeah.
So it came. The Medicare rock stars really kind of came down to looking at I think I told you a story. I heard a story about a conversation about a lounge act, and started really kind of thinking about the different levels of an individual, not just in sales, but just in life. And I think every individual in life falls into 3 categories. They fall into a lounge act. Yeah. Where my tagline is that they're just comfortable working for tips, and they don't do anything extra to be better. And so you got that's the lounge act. They get to work late. They're not prepared. They're not doing anything extra. Not reading anything. They're not trying to be an expert in their field. They want to be spoon-fed everything. They want to be handed everything. Those are the order takers of life.
Some people are like that.
And the thing is, Cody, you and I could be that. I think and we talked about that as well, is that you have to mentally check yourself every single day.
Yes.
And am I being a lounge act?
Well, not spelling your name right was me being a lounge act for a second.
Being a lounge act, correct. I mean, and those things, if I've set the alarm for, 4 or 5 in the morning, that's what I'm going to do that day.
Yes.
Okay. And I get to that point at 4 or 5 in the morning and I'd say, I'm going to hit the snooze button right now. Okay. Some people look at it and go, what? That's early.
Not a big deal.
That's not a big deal. 5 is okay. You wake up at 5, that's good. But mentally what I've done is, even though I wake up at 5 o'clock, mentally I told myself it's okay to take it easy.
Yes.
I'm being a lounge act right there.
That's right.
In that moment. So I think every day you have to constantly be asking yourself those questions. So you got the lounge act, and then you've got the opening act. And the opening act, I say they do just enough to stay on tour, but they don't do enough to break away and headline the show.
Yep.
And so
always opening somebody else.
Those are great salespeople. The opening act are great salespeople. They'll show up on time. Sometimes they'll show up a little bit early. They won't. They'll make money when they need to. So if they've got something they want to buy, they'll kind of put in that extra effort right now to make that money to go buy that.
Yes.
And that's kind of your opening act. So opening acts are great salespeople. But if they just did a little bit more, I've seen so many sales agents that were opening acts. They were great at sales. They were hitting good numbers. But you looked at them and go, wow, if you just did a little bit more.
Yes.
If you just did a little bit more, you could hit that Medicare sales rock star status and literally start really hitting some numbers. And that's, that Medicare sales rock star is kind of where it came. They love the limelight. They're obsessed with it. They're highly motivated. They're going to get to work early. They're going to make sure that they're looking at their calendar, looking at their pipeline. They're starting to pre-plan their day. They're like, okay, the first person I talk to today, if there's a sales opportunity there, I'm closing them.
Yes. And
it's just that mindset that someone has where, a lounge act's looking like, okay, I'm just going to start taking some calls. If there's something there I can get, great. If not, then I'm going to kind of move on. I'm going to look for that easy kind of lay down. And they get to 4, 5, 6 in the afternoon. They go, what just happened?
Yeah. That's such a good point to make too, because if I think back on my career, I was an opening act when it come to basketball in college. I was just doing enough to get by and to do well, but not really ever stand out or be this shining star of the team. And then I found insurance and really became obsessed early in my career with business and sales and all that. And so I love that story because everybody can relate to that, right? And as you guys are listening, you're probably thinking about, in my career right now, as Greg's talking, where do I see myself currently? And I can tell you, everybody wants to be a rock star.
Well, everybody wants to be a rock star. I don't think you can ask anybody, hey, do you want to be a rock star? They're going to say, no, I don't want to be a rock star.
Definitely not.
No, that
lounge act.
Yeah, no, lounge act for me. That's what I want to do. Everybody says it.
Yeah.
But you do what it takes to get there. And so, right now, I just finished a book on a Medicare sales rock star, which will come out, and it kind of gives the steps on exactly what somebody needs to do to become that rock star.
That's huge.
It starts from how you prepare for the day, what you do, how you get there, how you connect with the other individual you're talking to, and so if you got those out there that are watching that are starting out new when it comes to Medicare. Those steps are so crucial, being able to connect with that person. I think that's one of the biggest things I think that salespeople fail. And that's kind of like my goal, my mission, to really kind of just let people know is that most salespeople never connect with the other person. They never connect with the other person. We talked about yesterday, and I try to remember people and try to remember situations. We talked about yesterday. We went to lunch yesterday.
Yes.
And our waitress.
That's right.
Was Paige.
Yes.
Okay. I remember that. Okay. Because I always want to connect with that other person that I'm talking to, because once you connect with somebody, the sale's over.
That's right.
The sale's over. And I think so many people want to start throwing out the benefits and the features and everything right away. And that's a lounge act. That's what lounge acts do. And so many people are so used to that. They're so used to that transactional way of selling. So when somebody comes in and is so different, it's over.
I think you probably helped her get out of her lounge act for the day too, because you could just tell when she came to the table, the way she was talking, you could barely hear her, no confidence, screwed up, and like, oh my gosh, and like made a big deal of it. Like, I think you probably really helped connect and help boost her confidence for the day too, which is really cool.
It's funny you say. I had a sales training once, and and I've never had it happen again. Had a sales training once where this guy was a pretty big guy. His name was Victor. That kind of tells you anything,
Yeah.
And I gave this story, and he literally started crying. And it was kind of a little awkward because everybody in there was like, hey, it's okay, Victor, it's okay, Victor. And I told the story of this. I told him a story about the day before I had gone to a gas station. And I get into the gas station to pay for my stuff at the gas station. As I'm walking up, this girl at the counter looks depressed.
Yeah.
She looks like she's annoyed. She looks like she's just, she's just having a bad day.
Yep.
And I look at her name badge, and it's a name that's very, very hard to pronounce. Okay. So I step up and I say, hey, I might mess this up right now, but give me a shot. And I said her name. She literally looks at me and goes, you said it right. She goes, wow. She goes, thank you so much. And the smile that appeared on her face was just unbelievable. Seeing that person that looked so depressed.
Yep.
And went ahead and like their countenance changed, and she was just so happy, and because nobody had done that.
Right.
And so what happened was I said this story. I said, when I walked out to my car, I sat in my car and I thought about this. Was she contemplating suicide today? And was that random act of kindness right now, by just saying her name, did that change her entire life? He started crying. But that's, it's that emotional thing.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, you see, it's that emotional side that you have to be able to connect with somebody in order to create a relationship. So in that type of a situation, she would have done anything for me at that point.
Yes.
And those little things are so crucial, and that's where you have to connect with that individual.
So good.
Right at the very beginning, and most salespeople do not do that.
Yeah.
I just had a sales agent just started, and I had been in the career, been in sales career for a while. I told him, I said, you got to use the first names. Well, I've never done that before. It's kind of awkward. It's weird. I go, I just feel like I'm being too personal. No, you have to be personal.
Yeah.
You have to get out of the transactional selling and get into relationship selling. And he started using, he goes, Greg, you're so right. Like, it's changed everything. And he's absolutely flourishing right now.
That's
just
right.
From that little thing of just connecting with someone.
I could have seen too, like, let's just say you're in the gas station and they're out of, like, what's your favorite drink or candy or whatever?
Now you're gonna get me in trouble right now.
Whatever. You can say whatever you want.
I think my Celsius. I'm a big Celsius energy kind
of. Okay, there you go. So let's just say they were out of Celsius.
Correct.
And majority of individuals, the way she was having her day that day. Correct. They would have said, "Oh, you're out of Celsius. Yeah, we're out. Sorry." Mm-hmm. The way you went about it afterwards, if you just said, "Hey, you were out of Celsius. Is there any chance you got any in the back or something?" She'd have probably went and checked.
She would have.
Like, that's the difference, and that's what he's really trying to get across and how important that really is.
It opens things. I mean, it comes up to, we on Sunday we went out to breakfast and walk in. My wife had put down our name. Yeah. With I've got two kids, so there's 4 of us. She put down 4. So her name's Jennifer, and so the guy at the front when I walked in, I said, "Hey, guys, I'm sorry. What's your name?" Because he didn't have a name badge. So it goes even further than that. You have to even ask in those situations. People won't do that. He said, Eric.
That's so good.
I said, Eric, I appreciate it. He's like, my wife had taken my son to the bathroom. So he's like, no, I see her right here. Just go sit down. I'll come grab you. He comes back out, okay? And go, okay, Jennifer, for 3. And she goes, no, I put down 4. He's like, oh. He starts scrolling down. We're way down at the bottom.
Oh, he had got you confused with somebody else.
There was another Jennifer that had a party of 3.
She was way ahead.
She was way ahead. We're way down the list. He goes, let me see what I can do. He walks back in, walks back out, and goes, Jennifer, party of 4, your table's ready.
Wow.
We go sit down, we have our meal. As I'm walking out, I say, hey, Eric, I really appreciate it. He says, thank you. My wife didn't know his name, okay, but she heard me say it.
Yeah.
And as she's walking out, she goes, hey, Eric, thank you so much. I appreciate it as well. He goes, thank you so much. That was so kind of you.
That's so cool.
So just that one act of kindness is just so huge. And we, I say this, but you have to translate that into all parts of your life. And that's really kind of what sales is. So if
Yes, it
you were to
is.
look at what made me successful and what made me what I would call a Medicare rock star or sales rock star is the ability to connect with somebody else. And that's the key thing.
That's huge.
Once you connect with somebody, they'll buy whatever you're selling.
Yeah.
Because they trust you.
I think we should stop and make them put their credit card in to keep watching and listening to this free live sales training with you. That's so good. And I relate to this because I had a manager 10 years ago say, hey, when you get within like 6 feet of someone, maybe you're 3 or 6 feet, something like that. He's like,
You're talking about the 6 foot rule right now?
yeah, maybe, yeah, COVID, no.
Yeah.
He's like, warm somebody up. He's like, when you get, a few when you get close to somebody, a few feet away, whatever, warm them up. He's like, if you get in a habit of that,
Correct.
he said, sales will be so easy. And I look back on that now and I'm like, man, he was right. And I've kind of used to ignore those little things along the way. And now it's like, if I walk past someone and I don't speak to them, I don't address them, I don't try to warm them up, after literally 8 seconds later, I'll be like, why did I just walk past a person and not even address them? Like a team member or something like that. So it's funny you bring this up.
It happened when I flew in yesterday.
Yeah.
I was trying to find a taxi to come here, and there was a police officer there, and I walked up. I said, hey, I'm trying to get a taxi. He goes, they're way down at the very bottom over there. If you keep walking down there. Okay. I said, I appreciate it. I said, what's your name? His name was Jim. I said, thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. He goes, oh, no problem. Hey, let me walk you down there.
Oh,
Literally
nice.
left his spot and walked me all the way down there. So, I mean, just those little things like that. At the end of the day, I didn't expect it.
That's
it's
so
not
cool.
something you expect,
Yeah.
but it will open doors for you. And that's just, go back to sales. Said if you want to open doors and you want to be successful, I'm telling you right now, start using first names in your conversation. It'll be awkward, it'll be weird at first, but don't just do it in your sales. Take it outside. So
don't just do it in the intro. Like I've always talked about doing it in the intro.
Yeah.
You do it the whole time.
the entire time.
Yeah.
The entire time throughout the entire phone call.
You recently said you re-listened to one of your calls.
Correct.
And you counted the number of times you said it.
Yep. So I pulled a 5-minute thing right in the middle of the phone call. So I took the entire phone call, pulled 5 minutes in the middle.
Oh, it was just 5 minutes out of the middle.
Out of the middle. So it wasn't at the beginning, wasn't at the end. 5 minutes right in the middle. And that 5 minutes, I said that person's name 11 times.
So who knows how many? Like how long do you think the whole total phone call was?
A lot.
Probably like 40 times.
40 times. Yeah. But what that did, and listening to, I saved that call. I saved that call because the person at the very beginning of the conversation was a little irate. Before we go further, Greg, you tell me, do you work with this company?
Yeah.
So it started with a very harsh approach at the very beginning, and just softened it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of really the key is that a lot of people will say the name at the beginning, and they'll say the name at the end when they're trying to get the money.
Yes.
And that's it comes down to even like even a waitress.
Yeah.
Or a waiter. They're not very nice during the entire process, but at the end when the bill comes out, oh, how was everything going? How because they're wanting their tip.
Yes.
So now it's time to be nice to people.
That's right.
No, you got to be nice the entire time.
This is like the one sales tip that could just totally change the game in some agent's life. I want to go a couple more minutes. I know you have 20 agents currently, 21 with the manager. You have they're averaging 1.4 sales per Medicare sales per day, per agent, per rep. You're going to go to 50, even 78 technically over the course of the next 6-12 months. How many? I mean, total your team, if that's the case, at once you get to 50 people, you're probably doing like 18,000 cells a year on those volumes. We start crunching the numbers. 50 people, 1.5 a day, et cetera.
We're talking that goal of hitting like 1 to 1.5 a day. We're just talking strictly about a Medicare sup or Medicare.
So not even counting.
I'm not counting the ancillary product, and that's I think a big thing in our industry in particular is that when people throw out numbers, they're fictitious numbers. Yeah. So I did.
Well, they're counting the PDP, the vision. The
dental. I did 30 applications this week.
Yeah.
Oh no, you did 10 applications, which is still great.
That's great.
That for sup advantage, I don't care what it is. You're doing 10 a week. You're doing 2 a day. That's phenomenal. kudos to you. Like that's
I
absolutely.
like that you're giving real numbers and actually hitting.
That's amazing.
That shows how humble he is too. Because you could have said, "Oh, we're going to do 90,000 applications."
No, you have to be realistic in what you're talking about. But
20,000 PDPs.
But again, that individual did 30.
Yeah.
30. That's still an impressive number. I mean, you know, because they're adding the ancillary products, the dental, the vision, or indemnity, or a PDP plan in there. That's still a very impressive number.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, but and we have those numbers as well. But it's just we look really closely at the Medicare subs and the Medicare Advantage, because that's really the bread and butter why we're doing this.
Yeah. Well, if they want to reach out to you and like look you up. Like what's a good website they could go and like if they're like, hey, I really want I like this Greg guy, man.
So we're in the process right now of starting MedicareRockstars.com. So that'll be here very, very shortly. We'll be up and running. So that'd be a way they can hit me up on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, there you go.
Is another way that they can.
Gurbikian.
Gurbikian, correct. Yep. Yeah. So Greg Gurbikian, and just So there'll be a lot more of me here very shortly.
Dude, a lot more. This dude is committed to putting it out there and helping agents. Phenomenal story, phenomenal call center, building a phenomenal brand, and doing some big stuff. I mean, literally, for you to sit there and just be as humble as he is and like just talking, like I'm telling you, this dude is an absolute animal in the industry, doing a ton of business, very successful. Running a Medicare call center is about as hard as it gets in the industry. And you make it seem really easy. Now everybody's going to be wanting to start.
Well, first of all, it's not easy, and you know that.
It's not.
So
it's very freaking hard.
Yeah,
I hear of Medicare call centers that fail daily.
And if you don't watch what you're doing, it can happen to anybody. You know, I think it can happen to any one of us. So you have to constantly be working, and
culture, people, sales training. He gave a phenomenal tip today.
So Cody, why is it hard work? Because it's hard work.
Yes, that's right.
That's really
right.
what it comes down
right.
to. It's hard work, and if anybody tells you anything differently, that they're not telling the truth.
I love it, man. Thank you for sharing today.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you being on this. Okay. Boom.
Boom.
Greg Gurbikian.
Thanks.
Go look him up. Okay. Thank you again.
Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're gonna love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there.
The dude is going to do over 1,000 Medicare apps this year in 2021, and we're doing an event together coming up here next week. Buddy, it's good to hang out with you for a couple minutes.
Absolutely. I'm really, really excited, not just for now.